This webinar you're about to watch is the closing session of the 3 workshops that took place as part of the Innovation Norway funded IOM EWaste Project, the Sustainable Procurement Workshops to Green Humanitarian Responses. In this webinar, we presented the outcomes of this partnership, 5 technical and service solutions towards a circular economy of solar e-products in displacement settings. In these recordings, the discussion and questions afterwards are not included. Please reach out to us if you wish to join us on what is next. The partners in this project wish to continue the conversation and efforts, explore opportunities to integrate this in your current projects, or collaborate with new partners in expanding this body of work and make them available in an open access environment. We thank Innovation Norway for funding this project and IOM for leading this work around e-waste management and greening humanitarian responses. So the first part of this session will be why sustainable procurement and building a case for change, which will be hosted by Gemma Arthesen of IOM WASH. Then the second part will be on what is sustainable procurement and the outcomes of this e-waste project approach, which we did with Solvoz and IOM. And that will be presented by me and my colleague Yumiko. We present first sustainability and circularity criteria. For those that have attended the first and second workshop, a part of this work will be a summary of earlier presentations and earlier documents that have been shared with you. And then the second step will be presenting the products and services outcomes of this project. And then the final part is what is next. We have some questions prepared and we hope to get some feedback to move towards steps required to systematically green our humanitarian responses in a sector-wide scale. So Gemma, I'd like to welcome you and take the floor and kick this session off with us.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Solvoz, for hosting this final workshop as part of the EWaste project. So as Claire mentioned, I'm just going to set the scene and have a look at why we're considering sustainable procurement and why we're all talking about it. Yep. I'm very sorry for anyone that's heard me give a background on the EWaste project before. I feel like I might be repeating myself, but in case we do have new members of the audience, I'll just give you a quick background on the overall project of which Solvoz is a part. So EWaste is a large issue in displacement settings. There are millions of pico solar products that are distributed by humanitarian agencies, and there are negative environmental impacts from disposing of them, as well as negative impacts on human health, as well as untapped economic opportunities. As part of the EWaste project, we aim to address these challenges. If you can just go to the next slide, Claire.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right. Thank you. By trying to find a cost-effective solution for the repair, reuse and recycling of those products to develop a circular economy. So we're gathering evidence from this pilot to influence manufacturers to make more repairable or recyclable products and extend their life cycle, whilst at the same time supporting livelihoods and creating jobs through e-waste repair services. And we're hoping this evidence will provide evidence to be able to replicate in other settings and scale up and inform the wider humanitarian sector. To give you an overview as well, if you can just go to the next slide, Claire. This is what we're trying to build. So this is a circular economy for e-waste, and each of our partners as part of this project actually focuses on a different aspect of the waste value chain. So we're working with Total Energies, who are looking at the recycling of batteries, as well as with Bright Products, who are looking at repair and reuse, as well as, of course, our sustainable procurement partner, Solvoz. And this slide as well really is trying to show that sustainable procurement actually affects the entire waste value chain. It can influence manufacturers to make user-focused design that meets the needs of beneficiaries, whilst having low toxicity and high quality and high repairability, which Solvoz will talk about in a moment. It can also impact the distribution aspect if we use local providers, reducing the need for long-distance shipping and carbon emissions. If we have quality and repairability as part of procurement criteria, it also impacts, how long these products are used. And yeah, essentially, sustainable procurement is the heart of a circular economy, which we'll talk about more during this session. We just wanted to give you a little bit of a background as well on the wider framework within which sustainable procurement sits, and I'm sure within each of your organisations you've been focusing on sustainability as part of wider global frameworks as well. Procurement isn't just buying things, so it has a really large impact, and particularly with this project in displacement settings, looking at the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, we can really strengthen the contribution of migrants and migration to sustainable development. And sustainable procurement can support this by empowering migrants and societies and supporting their livelihoods, and also building reducing tensions between host communities and refugees as well. Also through the Sustainable Development Goals, obviously improved procurement supports good health and decent work and economic growth, so therefore contributing to multiple of the Sustainable Development Goals as well. You just go to the next slide. And yeah, here's just a brief summary of why sustainable procurement matters, why we're all talking about it. Obviously environmental sustainability and human health and well-being, but also there's a really big localization aspect as well. So bringing the heart of these interventions to the people who they're affecting. And that's something that we've really tried to do through the EWaste Project, as well as that livelihoods and job creation, and as I mentioned before, supporting conflict resolution between different parties in displacement settings. So I'll hand over to Solvoz now that we've set the scene, and they can take you through the outcomes of the project. Thank you.
So before going to the outcomes of the project, I also briefly introduce Solvoz. Sorry for those that have heard this before, but if there are people around that haven't heard about Solvoz before, so we are an organization. We are to empower the capacity and strengthen local and sustainable supply chains. And we do so in this project to support responsible and sustainable procurement in aid, because what we are procuring is crucial in order to green our humanitarian responses. So our role in this partnership has been building up open access capacity for all and integrate this holistically between sectors and departments. And secondly, when you're procuring electronic equipment, we need to look at the full life cycle, including waste management downstream. And Solvoz operates as an ecosystem. So what you will see later on, it's a technical platform. We talk a lot about procurement, but we have a procurement platform as well as an open access catalog, which is free for all to access. And it's about informing, so making informed decisions. Whether or not you use the full platform of Solvoz, that doesn't matter, because procurement remains procurement. So we have this open access unique catalog, which is built by and for humanitarians globally. It's integrated with e-procurement, and why we've done this. So this catalog is about empowering and strengthening local procurement capacity. It's strengthening the collaboration between your procurement, operations, technical experts, so all of you. So it's a collaboration platform as well as a collaboration catalog. Anything you will see in the catalog is generic, and you can build your own catalog from it. So if there's items in that you'd like to be modified, there's guidance on it, but you can also make them specific, fitting your context or fitting your organization. And the reason why we're here is also to localize our supply chain and enable sustainable and responsible procurement. So on the one hand, it's a back office service and a catalog, and the second component of Solvoz is a procurement department as a service. So within Solvoz, there is a catalog, and we also have this dynamic kit builder in it. So you can build your own catalog based on the basics of the catalog itself, or start building it from scratch. So you can describe a new solution, you can create your own products, services, kits from scratch. You can add components from existing solutions or modify something and alter it. You can add these to baskets. Whether or not you proceed to this, it doesn't matter. It can be an endpoint when you've built your solution. You can export it in PDFs or in XLS files, or you proceed and you can add it to a basket and procure. And we're integrated with a procurement workflow. So again, if you'd like to use more the procurement side, you can search, add to a basket, you can modify any solution, you can launch your tenders, RFQs. We already are connected with, this is an old number, 340,000 local and international suppliers that will give you offers based on your request. So that was in 1 or 2 minutes the background of Solvoz. I would like to invite my colleague Yumiko now to really dig into our subject, to talk about sustainability and circularity in humanitarian procurement strategies. And what Yumiko will guide you through is all the research that has been taken care of and has been conducted before we were able to describe what we have as the outcomes today. So Yumiko.
Yes, thank you, Claire. So good morning, everybody. My name is Yumiko, and I'm going to present the topic, the sustainability and circularity in humanitarian procurement strategies. So sustainability and sustainable development. Next slide, please. Sustainable development is defined as a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And sustainable development is often explained by the combination of 3 pillars: environmental, economic, and social. And when all these pillars can be satisfied, we can achieve sustainable development. The concept is quite vague. So the United Nations translated this concept into more targetable framework called Sustainable Development Goals with 17 clean targets, so all economic actors can look in the same direction. Next, please. So when we talk about circularity, then we refer to a circular economy, which is a model of production and consumption which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling existing materials and products as long as possible. The cycle is quite long and it involves all the product stages and all entire value chain. For example, manufacturers are encouraged to design better products while reducing process waste. Consumers are encouraged to optimize life cycle of products while reusing the same product. Then once a product doesn't function anymore, the waste must be collected to be sorted and to be recycled, which is an intensive activity, both in financial and technical perspectives. So we must invest in waste management infrastructures. And of course, producers are encouraged again to use recycled materials as much as possible. So this is a global view of circular economy, and the cycle goes on and on. And it involves all the actors. Next slide, please. So this is when, in the humanitarian setting, when there's a lack of sustainability and circularity. This is a photo from a refugee camp on the right. And basically the waste is not collected nor recycled. So what can the humanitarian sector do to improve the situation? This is the core of IOM's project. And the next, please. So one way that Solvoz promotes is that we can use procurement to achieve circular economy. And procurement is a powerful mechanism that facilitates and drives circularity, that supports resource efficiency and waste reduction and sustainable consumption. So we learned during the work with IOM that the United Nations already had a set of what they call sustainable procurement indicators, which is based on social, environmental, and economic pillars, as we mentioned earlier. And we wanted something that's more concrete and operational, so procurement specialists can use and adapt to specific context, and suppliers can understand without different interpretations what a procurer is looking for to be more sustainable. So we set up, based on our research, we set up a set of what we call sustainability criteria, which is based on 5 building blocks: toxicity, end-of-life management, repairability, recyclability, and local production. Toxicity, straightforward, to preserve the health and the environment. End-of-life management, so that the waste is treated properly. And repairability, so the product can have multiple life cycles. And recyclability, so the material can enter into the material loop of circular economy. And local production, it's because circular economy functions much more efficiently at the local scale. So local production can be something like a local assembly or some economic activities that involves local building of a product. So we excluded the quality from these building blocks because we wanted this sustainability criteria to be rather universal. And as soon as we put the quality criteria into this set of criteria, it becomes too product specific. So we decided not to include it. But for the procurement guidelines, we will include we will still take into account the quality. So we took the quality standards that was used by a Verasol quality qualification system. Next slide, please. So here is the set of sustainability criteria that we developed, that if you are interested to read in, you can download from a Solvoz platform. So as you see, they are all these criteria are taken from different existing standards. So we studied different standards and pick up some elements which are suitable for this displacement settings context. Next slide, please. So here is how our sustainability criteria can influence and facilitate the development of a circular economy. As you see, our building blocks are more or less everywhere in different life stages of the product. So with all these building blocks, we can potentially close the loop, and this is our theory. And next slide, please. However, what we need is that you still need somebody to repair and collect waste and manage waste and recycle. And these are the services that for the moment is less spoken about in terms of procurement. And if we don't have these local services, we cannot close the loop and we will be back into the same situation. Next slide, please. Next, so in order for us to move away from this situation, we decided that the results from this IOM's EWaste project must be repeatable and replicable. So we developed some guidance document. Next slide, please. Based on what we have found from the research and what we have found from the field observations from our partners. So starting with sustainability criteria for the procurement, it allows us to have repairable solar lanterns, for example, and recyclable materials. Then once this solar lantern with certain quality standards goes into household, one day, unfortunately, it will break. And once it breaks, people can bring it to a repair shop, or they can perhaps bring it to an e-waste collection point. And this repair shop can repair their broken products with a small amount of fee, for example. An e-waste collection point can collect the waste so that waste will not hang around in the refuges in the displacement settings. Then repair shop and the e-waste collection must communicate closely to exchange the scrap metals and components and used and end-of-life electronic waste. And once they repair everything that they can repair, and they did the sorting of the materials, they can send the scrap materials to a scrap dealers. In the phase one of in the first phase of the IOM study, we learned that there are some scrap dealers, scrap dealing activities nearby displacement settings. So these out of the camp actors can be involved in this entire value chain to act as a as an economic actor. Then the end-of-life waste can be sent to e-waste treatment service. So for us, the task was that we wanted to document the local services that can be procured, which are repair service, e-waste collection service, and e-waste treatment service. And these documents had been peer reviewed by other organizations and the companies. So we are quite happy that today we can show you how the documents and the platform looks like. And I pass the floor to Claire again. Thank you.
So what we have done for this outcome presentation, I will first explain a little bit on the general approach of Solvoz and structuring of the solutions before going into the 5 solutions that we developed. So the 5 outcomes that are now all available in the open access environment, so you can access them during or after this session at any time. And after each of these solutions, we will pause for a moment and take questions from all of you if you have questions on those. So the first that we'll present is the solar lanterns and the work we've done around the solar lanterns, then the repair shop service and the waste collection service. So the first one is a product and the other 2 are services. Then we also developed rechargeable appliance batteries as well as waste management services. The one is a product, the other one is a service. I don't go deep into those because there will be a lot of repetition, but that you'll know that these 5 we have been focusing on. So the general approach of Solvoz when we're creating products and services in the open access catalog is that we adhere to rules. Sorry, I have 2 slides that I read out aloud and then we'll go deeper into some visuals. But when we're creating products and services within the catalog, the product or service should exist in real life or could exist in real life. Then secondly, it is always a generic and unbranded product or service. So for example, if we look at generators, we don't have a Yamaha generator in the catalog. We rather have a generator according to certain cycles, the fuel, etc. So we make it specific, but it's always unbranded. If for your organization the brand does matter, you can always adapt any solution in the catalog, modify it and pull it into your personal or your organizational catalog because you might want to have a specific brand because all your generators are of that specific brand. But the Solvoz catalog, the open access catalog, is generic and unbranded. And the third rule that we apply is that we display key attributes or criteria of the product or service. So we focus on quality attributes. We include important attributes related to safety, standards, sustainability, and there's other criteria available that you can customize again, like the brand, if needed by the user. If we think about the solar lanterns, the lumens, we have several solar lanterns in the catalog. Only a few lumens we have in, like 150, 500, for example. But if you're more specific on 300, you can simply modify anything in the catalog and then adjust and modify to your needs. Then moving into presenting the solutions. So we have a certain structure we follow for the solutions, and there's 2 components. So we created 5 for this project. And the first part of the solution is specific product or service that has a clear functional use case and context. And there's a description of the product or service. It's always in layman language. Then we describe the key criteria of the product or service or the key requirements. And then the third step is the prerequisites. So the key considerations for use and implementation of the product or service. If we think about, again, another product, if we think about an incubator, prerequisites could be, is there enough power, is there power availability, the training of nurses, spare part kits, which is a requirement to have during use because the bulbs need to be replaced every 3 months. So that's how we rephrase the 3 components. So there's a description, there's the criteria, and there's the prerequisites. The second step of the solutions we created on behalf of this project is then guidance for an entire product category. So it's the guidance matching the functional use of the needs and the context itself. It has the sustainability guidance and procurement guidance. So for each of the products, there's a description and there's guidance with it, which is more generic. So now let's go to the first solution that we developed. And first, I'd like to give credits to the colleagues that worked on all of those. I have the pleasure to present it to you today. But as you saw Yumiko before, my colleague Robert Simpson, Sebastian Soulier and Marianique Bossut has done a tremendous job in pulling them all together. And they didn't know I was going to give them credits right here. So if you go to the Solvoz catalog, we have a branch how to get to certain solutions. So here I have a simple solution of a portable lantern and you see the guidance. But how to get there? So I created a small video and I hope my presentation goes very well timed with it. So if you go to the catalog, you go to electronics, the communication, and you can go find your way to the lanterns. And we focused on lanterns with rechargeable batteries and specifically solar lanterns to develop our guidance material for. We created a set of lanterns that cover a few functional use cases in displacement settings, namely lanterns applicable for reading, particularly for children, and secondly, diffuse lights to light a small room. And what you will see here is these lanterns. With that, there's a lot of criteria on your left, the filters, which describe the functional use of the lanterns. And we describe these basic characteristics. For example, you see here the brightness. And when you select one of these, your solutions on the right will be narrowed. So they will matching according to the specifications you're setting or your criteria you're setting. So we can describe it should have rechargeable batteries. You can look at the runtime, the charge time, the cycles. So all sorts of functional use and contextual use case criteria. But what we've also done is based on the work that's just been presented by Yumiko. You saw that big table initially. This table is translated into these filters here. So we introduced sustainability criteria of this product group. So for example, does it contain toxic or harmful materials? And then we can select one or multiple criteria on toxicity. For example, is it repairable? And there's a lot of different characteristics and criteria under repairability. And we always assume we cannot have 100% circular economy. We always make choices according to certain characteristics. How far would you like to go? And what is important for your organization or this context? So we make them very operational. We can also look at the recyclability characteristics. Are the materials used, the used materials recycled, for example? So you can tick that box. Or is there a product take-back scheme? Again, these are generic descriptions. So we have here generic products. And what you're doing is defining the specification, and this information on what is a good lantern in terms of quality and the functional use, this can be shared with suppliers to set expectation and adapt. You can also adapt it again to match a specific context. This can be the endpoint for you. You can download this PDF report or you can launch your procurement request, but also it can be a starting point within your organization to discuss what is important. So you can simply modify and collaborate with your team to modify this specific lantern. Maybe you want 800 lumens instead of the 500 lumens and the rest you're fine with. So you can simply modify, change the title, change the characteristics. You can even add criteria to it. So you can modify it to your needs simply as a starting point, and all the information pool here that can be used to share with the suppliers as a request. So what you've seen here, going to that first presentation of the slide before, where I said we describe the solution and we have guidance material developed. So this was the first step. So we describe here on quality of all the standards, making your selection and informing a supplier. But the second step is what we developed for this project, and they're downloadable on the website, is guidance material. So we have for the solar lanterns a detailed guidance material to help organizations decide key requirements for a lantern and procurement guidance. So how to procure and from whom. So a buyer needs to consider environmental, ethical, social, economic considerations when you're selecting a product from a supplier. So in the tender or RFQ process. What we do is there's guidance, and it's a 24-page document. Here, sorry, I have the, if you download the export on the right, you have this PDF of what you saw initially in the program. But here I have just 3 out of the 24 pages. But when you, so there's a lot of guidance. Again, when we're looking at product quality, what Yumiko said before, the quality is so specific for a product category, so they're not in that model initially, but there's guidance here on selecting quality standards. There's sustainability standards. There's guidance on what to check for, which services are provided when you're buying the lantern, for example, warranty, transport, take-back schemes. There's also guidance on how to confirm supplier qualification and on supplier sustainability, the codes of conduct applicable, certification, supplier reputation. So there's a lot of guidance for you as an organization to make a right decision and or what is right for you at that context, etc. There's also guidance on economic evaluation based on price and associated costs. There's this registration, financial audits. So there's a lot of guidance material when you are to select a solar lantern. So the second solution, what we have developed, again, thinking back into that, the circle of Yumiko presented before, is a repair shop service. So integral to the sustainability of a product is that it can be repaired. And although a supplier might provide a warranty for a product, this might be impossible to take advantage of by the owner of a solar lantern, because there is a huge disconnect often between the supplier and the recipient of the lantern, because they've been received through, for example, an NFI distribution. So the user of the lantern or the beneficiary should go through the organization that distributed the lanterns to actually access the warranty. So what we have done is we developed service solutions on the platform that describe this solution that can be either contracted by the supplier that is required to ensure that they can effectively meet their warranty obligations for the users in displacement settings, or the buying organization who might be willing to support the repair product in displacement settings. For us, it really doesn't matter. The service itself, the description, the guidance remains the same. So it's up to the sector or the specific situation how this is taken up and who is taking care and what kind of financial models are behind it. So what we have developed here are these 2 services. We have a service contract for a repair shop for solar lanterns and one for small electronic equipment. Again, I've done the same, guiding you through. So you can browse through the catalog in 2 ways. So I showed the 2 options. So we're looking for the service contracts right now. We're going to the repair solutions. And again, what you will see if we select the lowest use case, on your left, you have all your criteria. And a repair service can be described containing the key requirements for this repair service. So the basic facilities that are expected, what type of repairs can be done, the service level, monitoring, administration, basic equipment required, service supplier qualification. So there's a lot of filters you can do. And then again, here we have our service contract for the solar lanterns. It describes again this service in layman language, similar as the products before. And you have the repair shop, the service level, sustainability practices, safety, toxicity, supplier qualification. So a lot of guidance and descriptions. And then if we go up to the key criteria, they provide, I'll just go there if we select the criteria. They provide a brief overview of the services that are provided. So this allows the service provider to be able to match these services to the key requirements of the buyer. Again, you might have different repairs required, more or less. So you can simply modify the solution untick which repairs to add, and then you can launch. So it's flexible, be made flexible from the beginning. And again, there's prerequisites of such a service contract. There's required power, safe storage of goods, waste management, registration. So there's a lot of prerequisites. And again, you might be aware of prerequisites that we have not included. We would welcome you to help contributing and contribute to this open access body of knowledge. This again, you can download and you can also modify, as I said before. So yeah, again, going to the second step. So we described the solution here. We also provide and created guidance material for such a service contract. So in the guidance, we focused on the clarification of the expectations of the service provider, the service and the service standards. So we also looked at the expectation of the service provider themselves, their reputation, adherence to local regulations. So as a buyer, you should consider, again, all these considerations similar like a product on environment, ethical, social, economic, when you select your suppliers. And you should also check the range of services that are provided, the quality of service, the training of staff, the safety of the workplace. And all these guidance is in this material. But there's also additional guidance criteria, so the administration, agreed monitoring mechanism, agreed financial models. So again, here, this is also a 20+ page document. At all times, the organization that is contracting the service should consider the context in which it's dealing the service provider. So might be limited capital, equipment, or training of staff. So support and opportunities should be provided where possible to help small businesses grow and develop their services in these often resource poor settings. And again, these documents are downloadable. They're there for you to serve and support the sector in making good selections, or at least support you with your selection. So I know this was very short, very complex, and I didn't want to go through all these 24 pages. I'll just move to the third solution, which is similar as the other one. This is again a service. It's the e-waste collection service, contracting in displacement settings. Just click on the video so it runs. So an e-waste collection service focuses on the removal of broken electrical and electronic equipment from the households to protect children to accidental toxic exposure, but also the population itself. And in addition, collected e-waste could also yield economic value and facilitates the transition and supports the host communities. So in these solutions, let me start. We focus on the requirements of a collection service. So again, we go to the service. We have here the waste collection services. We focus on the requirements of such a service. So facilities, the reception points, the bins, the central depot of sorting, what type of waste to collect, the incentives, the safe practices of handling, service supplier qualification. So there's all these filters. We can open again such a solution. And again, it's the layman language describing such a service, giving you all the guidance as how such a service looks like. And within this solution, again, we developed a set of criteria that can be shared with the service provider on what kind of services you expect and that match the requirements of yourself. So again, it has all these guidance up here in the description of the solution itself. And if we go up again, we have also all these criteria again. So what kind of waste to collect? So the facility, the waste type, the bin types, the equipment. So you have all this information again listed, which again can be downloaded, can be modified, and it also comes again with prerequisites similar as the other ones. And they also come with the guidelines. So there's again a guideline material to help you making the selection of the appropriate e-waste collection, helping you with the what kind of waste, on the safety, all the things that I mentioned before, and how to procure those services and how to make sure you fit with the local context. And if I'm going deep into all these guidance material, I have the idea that I'm going to duplicate myself. But here again, you have some pages from the e-waste collection service guidance. Yeah, please take a look at it when we're there, after this meeting, and share with colleagues. I'll just don't take the questions right now. Like the solar lanterns, with it similarly with the rechargeable application batteries. So when you're going through the application batteries and you select the rechargeable ones, there is the guidance. On the left, you have, like with the filters before, you have all sorts of criteria, functional, technical descriptions of the batteries. And with the rechargeable batteries, you also have this guidance on making the proper selection of your batteries. So there's all these guidance materials with it. And we have done the same for e-waste management services. Again, what you saw earlier on my screen, we have the service for e-waste management, and again, a large document to guide and help you making the right decisions and move forward to a circular economy. So I think I spoke for long enough. I really hope we can get the discussion going. And I think what is up to us next is what is next? How do we move to a more circular economy, and how to adopt these practices within our work? All right, if there's no questions, then we keep it within the hour, I think. I would like to thank you all very much, and it was a real pleasure to work on this project with all of us. And I really hope that the information that is being presented to you today can be helpful in making your decisions, and it can be shared. And we really like to learn more about other projects that we can collaborate on. And Gemma, can I give the floor to you to do the final closing? There's a first question coming in.
Thanks for that response, Amy. I'm sure Solvoz will collate that and share it with the group. Yes, thank you all for your participation today, and those who have attended the other Solvoz workshops as well. It's a really important body of work and a body of knowledge that we've been able to collect with all of your participation through this project. So really appreciate you being involved, and we look forward to sharing the results with you all around the procurement aspect, as well as the wider results of the EWaste project as well. So thank you all for coming.